the morning, I get them in the evening too. I get the blues in the morning. How about you? I get that lonely, lonely feeling they call the New London Blues. I get the lonely, lonely feeling they call the New London Blues. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. This is the March 20th edition of LOT, and this particular one is the Dave and Larry Show.
Oh, yes.
Or you could make it the Larry and Dave Show if you want. Anyway, LOT meets 7 o'clock at the Senior Center on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of every month. Membership with voting rights is $10 a year, quite reasonable. The meetings are open to anyone who wishes to come. If you want the right to vote on issues we vote on, it'll cost you the $10 membership. We encourage attendance at city council meetings, which are generally the first and third Mondays monthly. By custom, and actually I guess by charter, there's a public comment meeting, a public comment period in the council agenda. And some LOT members will speak at that, other people will. And if you have something you want to bring to the council's attention, or even the mayor's attention, that's a good time to do it. There is no guarantee that they will listen to us, but it's worth a try. And you should note that this November, being 2015, at least on my calendar, this is a municipal election year. Fortunately, November is about 8 months from now, and it's probably going to get pretty contentious for that reason, closer to election. And the other thing is, this is budget time. School and city budget, and meetings can also get pretty contentious. But what will happen, anybody's guess. There's never full agreement between what the school board asks for, even with a new superintendent, and what the council is willing to give them. But anyway, if you enjoy going to the circus, go to the city council meetings. You might learn something, and depending upon what you care to say to them, they might learn something.
Would we be allowed to throw peanuts?
No. That's considered
How about
bad
aspersions?
form. Aspersions you can throw all you want.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just so we get it straight.
Yeah. I don't want any mistakes over this kind of stuff. It's too serious. Well, anyway, Larry has some stuff he'll talk about. I have some stuff that I want to mention. In particular, a printout from the Yankee Institute for Public Policy, a marvelous document that they send. Oops, I got to make sure, I'll hide myself behind it. But anyway, the Yankee Institute, which has a website where you can get this kind of information, is at www.yankeeinstitute.org. And these folks are really good at what they do. Good enough so that when they're poking holes in proposed state budgets and so forth, they make some very well-known elected officials very unhappy, because these guys are truth tellers. And unfortunately, you cannot say that about all our elected officials. Anyway, 3 years ago, Connecticut taxpayers endured the largest tax hike in state history, with 77 tax and fee increases, averaging more than $1,200 per taxpayer per year. That's not per resident per year, that's per taxpayer. Taxes were increased on more than 50 items in different categories. Income taxes went up. Then gas taxes were raised again. We were told that all the new money going to Hartford would stabilize the state's finances and lead to our ultimate goal, job creation. So, 3 years after this record-breaking tax increase, what do we have to show for it? Well, they go on, they print something called the List of Lasts, LAST 2014. Continuing high deficits, a projected deficit of $2.8 billion in the next budget cycle.
Not to really interrupt, but I will anyway.
Okay, that's fair.
By last, I think you're referring to the state is last among all of the states.
Mm-hmm. We get to that in here.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Okay.
All right.
Sluggish economy. For the past 2 years, Connecticut has grown at only 1/2 the national rate. Smaller workforce. There are 50,000 fewer people in Connecticut's labor force than in 2011. Unhappy citizens. 49% of state residents say they'd move to another state if they could. Unhealthy business climate. The 5th worst state in the nation to do business. The last Tax Freedom Day. Now, if you don't know what the Tax Freedom Day is, it's that day to which you have to work just to pay your taxes. And guess where Connecticut is? Last.
Last.
Residents work till May 9th on Tax Freedom Day. And that's the latest in the nation.
That's IRS, the federal tax, right? And the state tax?
I think it's both.
Yeah, and then what about the local property tax?
I don't know whether that's included.
Yeah, well, that's what I was wondering.
That would make it even worse.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, worst debt. At $46,000 per taxpayer, we have the nation's worst debt burden. Shrinking surplus, falling by more than $461 million between January and April 2014. Worst state for retirees. High cost of living puts Connecticut last. It's time for me to move. I'm retired. I should get out of state.
The more you read, the more depressed I'm getting here.
Okay, so big achievement gap. One of the worst achievement gaps in the nation for minority students. People are leaving the state. More people are leaving the state than are moving in.
Some time ago I heard it was 20 to 22,000 people a year.
Could be. They don't mention any figure here.
Yeah.
Higher gas taxes. We pay the 3rd highest gas taxes in the nation. Highest foreclosures. We made the top 10 for the most foreclosures. 2nd highest pension debt. Pension costs are devouring more and more of the state budget. 2nd highest level of income inequality. High taxes and big government hurt. They certainly don't help. That's about the list on this Yankee Institute information sheet. And as I said, if anybody is interested in getting info from them, it's very easy to do. You don't. They will ask you for a little money, but you don't have to send them anything. They will send you what they have, and again, it's www.yankeeinstitute.org.
And as far as we are concerned, about that paper, who is the top one that pretty much runs that?
Well, I don't know who runs it now. Rob Simmons used to, but he doesn't anymore. Somebody else
but
is.
Who is it that relays these facts to us every once in a while? Susan.
Susan Neep. Well,
Susan Neep.
I got a bunch of stuff from
her
too.
You got her listed there. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway.
We haven't seen her in quite a while.
No.
I'll have to invite her onto the show again.
Speaking of the formidable Susan Neep, because she's another person who is not really favored by certain unions and politicians, because she is a truth teller also. And dealing with her and getting info from her, you can go to the Federation of Connecticut Taxpayer Organizations, contact Susan Neep, that's K-N-I-E-P. She's the president. They have a website, http://ctact.org. And they even have a telephone number. Everybody has to have a 860-841-8032. 841-8032. And I printed out a whole list of things that she and the Federation of Connecticut Taxpayer Organizations published. And you can go online and get that, and it will really astonish you at how many really not good things are going on in our state. There are, I went through some stuff from them earlier today, and I discovered that if you look at a list of state employee pensions, you can find more than 400 pensioners who are getting more than $100,000 a year.
Oh yeah, I remember last year she sent us the list.
Yeah.
And some of them were, what, the highest I remember was 325,000.
Yeah, there are some very high ones, but there are more than 400 that are 100,000 or higher. And if you look at what the state is spending, it has 48,000, as of 2014, I guess, 48,268 retirees on pensions.
Oh.
And the total cost of those pensions to the state every year is now $1,550,317,083.40. It's the 40 cents that's killing us.
Oh, but that reminds me just this instant of that number of $1.5 billion.
Yeah.
Now, coincidentally, the entire property in New London is valued at $1.5 billion. So, this entire town is equal to the pension bill of the state, the value of New London property.
Yeah.
How about that?
I think
maybe understand how bad it is seeing it that way rather than just numbers.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
I'd rather not.
Not.
That's pretty alarming stuff. But there was one other thing. We're talking about the problems with the state's budget and the gaming that goes on to try to keep it within the mandated cap, which they can't do.
Yeah.
They play games with it to try to obscure the fact that they're actually doing what they're supposed to do. vis-a-vis the state constitution. And just as a little example of the nonsense that goes on, in the many state departments, there is a State Department on Aging, which has a yearly budget, including fringes, of $2.8 million a year. Okay. So what did Malloy do, Governor Malloy do, when one of our state representatives decided she wanted to run for a Senate seat? She got defeated. And Malloy, feeling sorry for her, created a position. Created a position just for her.
So the state could have run perfectly well
without her.
Without her.
But he created the Commission on Aging.
Oh, commission.
Yes, gave her $100,000 in pay, and the rest of that commission spends $265,000 a year, which duplicates the State Department on Aging. And you can look at that, $365,000. That's penny ante stuff compared to the total budget, but he did it anyway.
Yeah, but now I'm feeling kind of left out. After all, I am a commission member too, you know, but I don't get $100,000 for it. I don't even get a nickel.
Well, I think you should write to the governor and tell him you want the aging money.
Oh yeah.
Divided amongst your.
Yeah, actually, I think I'm probably more aged than his commissioner.
You are. I am. Yeah. Most of the guys we sit with in the morning, except maybe Tom. But anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, I just thought it was a marvelous example of what goes on in Hartford, and a governor who, although he allegedly means well, some of the things that he's responsible for are definitely not good for the taxpayers of the state of Connecticut. And shall I do a little more?
Well, you want to take a break? I'll jump in for a minute here.
Okay, you do that.
Yeah, this is
Line one.
Oh, we have a call.
A call?
Well, let's see. Hello, you're on?
Hello, are you there?
Yeah, we're here. Are you there?
This is right.
Let me guess.
Okay, I'm listening to you guys and listening to you, Dr. Hayes, talking, and you know, I was looking at this booklet I got from Mr. Jeff Smith, our finance director, and it's about how much taxes we brought in. Now, according to property tax revenues for 2014, unaudited estimate, we brought in roughly $42,851,000 in taxes. 55% of that was from homeowners.
Yeah.
Now, you just made a statement that
I did.
That was you, Dennis.
Oh. All right. Hang on a second, please.
Close the door.
Close the door. Don't be a smart aleck, Larry. Okay, so what was that you were talking about, Larry, being $1 billion? What's that called?
That was the total valuation of all the property in London.
Okay, so if we're at $1 billion, and I know there's some things in there I don't quite know, but we're pulling in $42 million for the year 2014. Where the hell is all the rest of the money?
Oh.
Why are we collecting more taxes?
Well, because we have a $83 million budget. Now the state gives us so much money in pilot money, and then on top of that, the state and whoever else gives grant money. So that totals up to another 40 million. Now,
Okay. So we're up to, I'm going to be generous and say we're up to $100 million. We're missing $900 million somewhere.
No, we're not really.
We're missing it?
No, they got ways around it.
Okay.
You know, I was listening to you, Dr. Hayes, talk about all these wonderful things about the state of Connecticut, and, you know, I can understand why these young Democrats and young people think, you know, we live in such a kumbaya world, and that, you know, instead of looking at all the negative things going around you, you know, you got to think positive. You got to look at the positive side. You got to bring all this positive stuff into this. But you know what? All this stuff that's going on around us that's negative is going to swallow up that positive stuff and spit it out. Unless these people get smart and look at this negative stuff and say, okay, how can we fix this? Let's forget about wishing we were in some kind of kumbaya world, and let's figure out a way to fix this before it gets even worse. But no, I got to listen to people come up and tell me, oh, you're always negative, you have nothing good to say about New London, this, that, and everything. They better wake up. People got to wake up.
Well,
and I'm done ranting.
Dennis, I have trouble with that word gumbaya. Is that a Mexican dish of some kind?
You were never a hippie. If you were a hippie, you know what kumbaya means. You had to do some things in your younger days, which, I don't know.
Oh, speaking...
All right, I just wanted to call up and rant.
Well,
keep listening,
all right.
I may call back.
Don't run away. Don't run away.
All right, I'm right here.
You brought up the figure of supposedly they collect 42 million from the taxpayers here in town. At what'd you say? 55% of that is from the homeowners?
Yes.
Okay. Now, a few years ago, the official figure of the taxes that we paid the state happened to be 42 million. So imagine this, we're paying 42 million local taxes, another 42 million goes to the state, and I don't have any kind of records of what the town would pay to the IRS. What would you say, another 20 million or so at least, to be generous?
And then what
Anyway, we're talking about this little tiny town pumps out around $90 million in taxes every year. And what do we get back? Well, Ernie Hewitt says, we give you we give you $39 million. He says. You know,
right.
I says, Ernie, you take 42 million from us. Well, we give you 39 million. Ernie, you take 42 million from us. You just can't get through.
Is that?
You know,
it's just 39 million they're giving back to us. Part of that money they're giving back to us is our own money.
Well, that's what I'm just telling you. That's what I'm telling you. Okay.
Oh, guys.
Okay.
I will talk with you later.
Okay. Don't forget.
Oh, my.
Oh, where were we before we were, well, I shouldn't say interrupted, but before that last caller.
I don't know, you were going to do...
Oh, yes, I was gonna jump in with a little bit here. Now, unfortunately, I guess most of us remember the Second World War. Well, anyway, when the veterans were all coming home, you know, by the thousands, you know, well, the federal government says, we're going to give you guys a $10,000 reduction on your property. So, you know, you have $10,000 where you don't have to pay property tax. And then the states jumped in and said, oh, we want to get on the bandwagon, we'll give you $500. At that time, an average house cost $15,000. So you had the tax deductions of 10 and 5, you know, $1,500. Wait a minute, did I say 10,000? I meant 1,000.
Mr. Hample, I don't know what you meant.
I'll have to go back then. They were giving the guys $1,000 reduction.
Yeah, okay.
So what it amounts to is a 10% reduction on the cost of a new house. At that time, it was $15,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in all of these years, how many years is it? 37, 30, or longer than that? I can't even think.
It's almost 60 years.
The 60 years.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
60 years. Inflation has gone up something fierce. But in most all of the states and towns, that deduction part has never been raised. And right now, in this town, according to the finance director, the median price homes is $150,000. Median price, that means half the homes are below $150,000 and half are above.
Mm-hmm.
So that $1,500 tax reduction only in real money only amounts to about $55 now.
Yeah.
So that's 1% of the cost of the house. Just one. That $1,500 is just 1%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we lost 9% in the last 60 years.
Well, yeah.
Now what I'm getting into. Now some of the towns around here understand that, and they are giving the veterans a $10,000, tax reduction. Not $10,000 in taxes, but that much that they don't pay tax on. And now in this newspaper, they're starting to talk about this and some other breaks for veterans in the state. They want to go and change that 1% deal to a straight 10% deal. It's not a dollar amount, but a 10% deal. So on the $150,000 house, it would be $15,000 that you wouldn't have to pay property taxes on, which sounds pretty good. And other things they had in mind was for veterans to drop the motor vehicle tax. And especially the disabled veterans would get, much more deals than the ones that are still up and walking around.
Right. Yeah.
And there's more in here, but I thought the biggest thing that came to my mind was finally they're beginning to recognize that to be somewhat fair, it should raise that 1% deal to 10%. So people that had houses worth over $150,000, they're not. They would have the same percentage, so they would make out a little bit better.
There's one thing that brings to mind. Nothing has happened about it, but depending upon what the mill rate is in any given town, identical cars can be taxed quite differently.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know who proposed it, and I guess it's never gone anywhere, that car taxes should be levied if you have in the state. I mean, the state legislature can't do anything.
Well, at least the state, but it should be nationwide.
Statewide, if you have a $10,000 car in valuation in New London, it should be taxed the same as a $10,000 car in Greenwich or Staffordville or wherever it is.
Yeah.
But there are things that could be done that would be a bit more fair than the way they're done now. And I'll, with your forbearance,
My forbearance.
Yes, I will go a little bit farther.
Okay.
And we'll talk about fiscal accountability and why it's important that we have some sense of accountability. And that gets us to the state's long-term debt obligations, the total amount of obligations in terms of the state debt. Would you care to venture a guess of how many billions of dollars that is?
How many billions?
Yes, $68 billion of
68
debt.
billion.
Dollars.
Billion?
Billion. And
I don't have that many fingers, so I can't really tell what 58 billion is.
And then there was a little bit more. The projected state deficit for next year, 2016, is presently considered to be 1.3 billion. And if you want to go a little bit farther, in 2017, they project it at 1.4 billion. So whenever we turn around, we're being hit with more billions of debt, and that debt chews up a goodly part of the state's budget because it's all, it's interest. 25% of the $17.5 billion general fund budget goes towards the state contractual or legally obligated fixed cost, which includes debt service, which is 9% of the budget. That's $1.6 billion is debt service at this time.
So that's the interest on what the state owes.
Yes.
That's just the interest.
And the problem there is, of course, the state is not funding its pensions at what is considered a healthy rate. It's underfunded.
So in order to pay pensions, they borrow money.
Well, as you probably recall, in Connecticut, I guess it was last year or the year before, they floated a bond issue to pay current operating expenses.
Yeah, that's borrowing.
That should be an impeachable offense, or if not impeachable, a hanging offense. But anyway.
Well, all of this happens in the state of Corrupticut.
Oh, nobody's corrupt in this state.
Oh.
You and I are not, are we?
No, we can't afford it.
So anyway, let's see.
You have trouble reading?
Well, there's so much. I didn't outline, underline a lot of the stuff.
Well, grab one at random.
Yeah. He's been talking about putting tolls on some of the roads.
Well, right now he's putting potholes.
Yes, but he wants to raise money. And the story going around was that one of his ex-aides, Malloy's ex-aides, has been recently hired by a highway toll operator.
Oh,
so
ex-aide.
Yes, yeah.
A toll operator.
Right, and is that a conflict of some kind? I don't know.
And how much is the toll going to be?
Well, they don't talk about that.
Well, I heard one estimate.
Yeah.
In case you're interested.
Yeah.
Are you interested?
Yes, very.
Well, in case I'll tell you.
Okay.
$7 to cross the state line.
I'll never leave the state except by plane.
Hello, you're on with Dr. Hayes.
Good evening, gentlemen. I have two comments I'd like to make. The first one, I believe a few minutes ago, Dr. Hayes was talking about taxes on cars being uneven across the state. I was wondering if anybody has ever thought about having the state tax all cars, ATVs, boats, anything that moves, and in return, the state fully fund education throughout the state. That way, the tax on cars would be the same whether it's Greenwich or New London or Willimantic or wherever. The other question I have for you, and I'll hang up and listen to your answer, is I was told that even when the state says that their budget is going to be flat for the year, they've got a built-in 2.5% or 3% inflation. So even though they say it's going to be a flat budget, there's still going to be a 3% increase. So they say, oh, we're not raising anything, we're not raising any more money this year to pay for a certain department, such as DMV, but they're actually getting 3% more. I don't know if you know anything about that or not. I'll hang up and listen to your answer. Thank you.
Thank you for calling. One thing to think about, and I guess you could say this is my inherent cynicism coming through, if the state collected that amount of money for moving vehicles of any kind, given what is going on in the state, there is no assurance that we would get that back.
Yeah.
We might get some of it back, but getting all of it back, I would be very doubtful that the state would do that.
Yeah.
They have a habit of taking money. You know, you talk about things like that. We don't get as much pilot money as we're supposed to get. The state doesn't have that much anymore. So we're sort of losing things to the state. And
as far as taxing boats, I heard him mention boats too,
yes,
didn't he?
And everything.
Well,
yeah.
Years ago, well, they had it for years. They did tax boats. Mm-hmm. But the most expensive boats, through legal loopholes, managed to register them and say like a corporation in Delaware.
You're right.
And they were
or Rhode Island or something. They wouldn't get taxed at all.
Well, Delaware was the biggest ones that did it.
Yeah.
And so the state wasn't collecting taxes. And chasing after all the boats to check them out, they were spending more money than they could collect.
Yeah.
So eventually they said, well, the smart thing to do was drop property tax on the boat, but we charge them for registration fee every year according to the size of the boat.
Right.
And that's what they have been doing, and they've been making money on it.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that Fecto talks about in the sense that it wasn't just taxes, it was taxes and fees. That's one of the fees that they increased in order to, like you say, in order to avoid having to chase people. Well, let's see, we'll have a couple of boats, small outboards, buzzing around the Thames River.
They would go to boat yards and marinas and check off the registration numbers.
Right.
And check up on them that way.
Yeah.
But, you know, even the guy that did that checking, oh, well, that boat belongs to a friend of mine. Yeah. I'll just skip that.
Yeah.
You know, so you get that anyway.
Yeah.
You know. But I'm not exactly sure what he was saying on his second question. Maybe you heard it a little clearer than I did.
I wasn't sure what he was getting at,
really. Well, maybe he could call back and tell us again.
One other thing that I know that Susan Neep has comment about is the effect of binding arbitration.
Oh yeah, she's been after that for years, to do away with binding arbitration.
Yeah, the problem being that if you look what actually happens, you're dealing with unions and so forth, they can't reach an agreement.
Yeah.
And there are provisions in their ongoing contracts for binding arbitration. Unfortunately, binding arbitration frequently results in the union getting what they want.
I think 90%.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell exactly why that is happening unless some arbitration agreements require the parties to agree on one or more arbitrators. There's a tendency to agree on one because it doesn't cost quite as much, and that one is frequently very buddy-buddy with union interests. So the net result is the unions get what they want and the towns get what is euphemistically called the shaft.
Yeah, because it's when they have that disagreement and they want an arbitrator, it's not appointed to them by the state. they can pick the arbitrator they want.
Yeah.
And they look at the records of what they did, and that's who they hire.
Yeah.
So.
Line one.
Line one.
Oh. Hello, you're on with Dr. Hayes.
Hey, stop that.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Good show, except for one correction. On binding arbitration, you mentioned that it's 90% of the time it favors the labor union, and that's not as far. If you're talking about the state board of arbitration, which you probably are, because they're the ones that have that as a matter of law. It actually is 74% in favor of the cities and municipalities. The perception is that the unions win out is because when it comes to the point where they have an impasse, there are many cases where the municipality won't even bother to go to arbitration. They'll just go ahead and they will agree to the terms of the labor contract. But that's done by the municipalities. They volunteer to do that. And binding arbitration was born out of the fact that in the early days, the police, fire, and teachers were allowed to strike. And their strikes throughout the country, what had happened was they were so disruptive, they came up with laws that prevented them from striking by law. But then in place of that, they created a binding arbitration law so that these contracts could be mediated and they could be settled fairly. Now, it's understandable that sometimes they are settled fairly, but I got to tell you, neither the municipalities or the unions are happy with the result. So I would have to say that the law is working. But to say that the 90% favor of the unions is not an accurate statement. In fact, historically, it has favored the municipalities and not the unions.
Okay, well, thank you for explaining that. I was not aware of that fact.
My pleasure. Good show tonight, and I'll be listening. Okay, have a good night.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it's what I've always heard over the years.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I can go by because I do not have any government papers in front of me. It's just what I've heard and what I've been told. And in fact, in one of the reports Susan Neep made some years ago, because she's on top of that all the time, that's more or less what I'm trying to quote or, misquoting. That's what she says and what I've always heard. So I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah.
But when he said people volunteer to be arbitrators, I don't understand that part at all.
I don't know how you can do that.
Could I volunteer to arbitrate the school budget?
That's a good idea.
Well, I mean,
if we could have an elected office.
Well, no, he said it's volunteers.
Yes, but you volunteer to be voted into office.
Oh, no, to arbitrate for the school budget. I don't understand volunteering.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was like a state mandated commission or committee or bureaucracy, whatever.
Well, we have a lot of that.
Oh, okay.
Well, that, of course, when you get into that kind of thing and you talk about the school budgets and everything else and the state bureaucracy, maybe we're doing some of those people, giving them a bad time needlessly. But every time I've ever seen any figures about non-teaching positions in the schools, it's enough to curl your hair.
Yeah.
Because there seem to be more than they really need, I think anyway, that you could, if you ran a tighter system, you would not need as many administrators, non-teaching administrators. That's pretty difficult to assess, but that was assuredly the case previously in the New London school system, what's happening now, I don't know, because the
Let me give you a little clue.
all magnet school system, it's difficult for me to figure out what's really going on. Because I never agreed with the idea that New London should be the test case for an all magnet school system. I just don't think that's, New London doesn't deserve to be a test case for that kind of stuff. Because if it doesn't work, who gets the business? Not me, you.
Now, that reminds me. I managed to get to part of the budget, so-called budget talks at the Board of Ed.
Board of Ed, yeah.
And I guess the two people, I didn't recognize them. I was told later that they were principals from a couple of the schools.
Yeah.
Well, one of them said, you know, because you're talking about administrators, one of them said that the state mandated 2 positions in the school and paid the salaries for 1 year.
Yeah.
Now, this principal says, well, the state is not going to pay the salaries anymore. So he wants the Board of Education to pay their salaries. Well, the Board of Education didn't hire them to begin with. And the state wants them, and the state doesn't want to pay for them. To me, it's simple. Fire them. Fire them, and you save $200,000.
Hey.
This is 2 useless positions. They're so useless that the state doesn't want them. But then we have to pay $200,000 for them?
That's the way it works in this,
And
in Connecticut,
our board members say, oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I don't, you know, years ago I used to go to all the Board of Ed meetings, and I haven't been at one in years because I figured it's just, the last time I went was when the big rhubarb over the guy they almost hired but didn't quite.
Oh,
and he had his lawyer there and all this stuff was going on.
Yeah.
And Peg Curtin did not cover herself with glory.
Yeah.
But she's still the chairman of the school board.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like her as a person, but boy, I don't think she should be the chair of the school board.
Remember when she was on the city council? Well, whenever they were running short of money, she said, don't worry about it. We'll just raise the taxes. That's her philosophy, raise the taxes. You know, she has a pretty good sized business, which is not even in New London.
Who else says raise the taxes?
Oh, well, that's our present boss. You know, he says he's boss.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, come to think of it, you know, he raised the mill rate. You know, that's a 36% increase in the mill rate, 36%. And a city council says, oh, that's fine. We don't mind. 36% raise in just the mill rate.
That's the Hyslop effect.
Oh, the Hyslop. Yeah. So,
oh my.
So how do we get anywhere?
I don't know.
Oh.
Oh. Hopefully this will be another informative call.
Hello, you're on.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening.
You two are brave souls tonight, coming out on a stormy night.
Oh, it wasn't that stormy when we arrived here.
Oh.
Well, you two just be careful going home.
We're not wimpy, Dennis.
Well, I have a few comments to make.
Uh-oh.
I see where Waterford is cutting their school budget. But yet, every year, New London wants more money. I don't know where we're going to get the 7% that they want. It seems something is not, well, it's, let's call it a myth. You raise taxes and you cut services. We've lost 30 policemen or more. We've lost public works people, yet the taxes keep going up. To me, that doesn't add up.
Yeah, where is that?
I don't know how you two feel about it.
Yeah, where's that money going? If they're not paying for the 30 cops, where's that money
That's
going?
what everybody wants to know.
Yeah. So,
I can't help you there. I don't know where it's going.
and
Yeah, but nobody seems to know.
yeah, you ask the finance director, and what does he say? Oh, I don't have that information with me right now.
He keeps asking.
I'll get back to you.
He keeps asking for an audit, but we never get a completed audit.
You want to know my theory on the audit?
Yeah, where is the audit?
Well, I'll give you my theory.
You know?
Well, look at it this way. If they were really, really, really out of money, really scraping the bottom of the barrel, they would want us to know that we have to raise taxes because we have absolutely no money. Here it is. Here it is. Here's the paper. Look at the records. We have no money. But since they're not forthcoming with the audit to show us the bottom line of what money they have and don't have, to me, they have a surplus. And they don't want that to be in a written document for anybody to see. So as long as they will not produce that audit, I would say they have a surplus of money that they're hiding. Now that's my take on it.
Well,
that makes a lot of sense. However, there's a theory of overestimating expenditures and underestimating revenues.
Well, no,
the other way around.
The other way around.
The other way around. They do.
No, they overestimate
taxes that they're collecting.
What did I say? I can't remember.
You said it
well. What they do.
We know what you mean.
Yeah.
They overestimate revenues.
Right.
Right.
And underestimate expenses.
That's
it. And the thing that the governor has been doing, he has been counting the revenue before it is received. He figures it's going to be there at the beginning of the fiscal year, when in actual fact, it won't be there until the end of the year. And that's not wise. But they do that all the time.
Right. One more thing, and then I'm going to hang up. As far as bonding money and putting it in the fund balance, I don't agree with that. If you're going to put money in the fund balance, you need to do it gradually.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit here and a little bit there. I mean, we're bonding so much money, I don't know how we're going to ever pay it back.
Well, like the state, they don't worry about paying it back. We don't pay it back. We just pay interest forever.
Yeah.
No.
Well, anyway,
That's all smoke and mirrors, but be careful going home.
I think what we should do is take the bond money and divvy it up amongst all the taxpayers.
Oh. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang up on that note.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, one little tidbit here.
Okay.
I got the latest on the parking garage.
Okay. All right. We're down to 1 minute, so it's going to be quick.
According to this, the current fund balance is $135,000.
Okay.
Which means this is the profit so far.
Yeah.
Now the projected profit till the end of June is $250,000. So the garage is beginning to make a fair amount of money.
That's good.
And they have potential, like the town, potential for more because they still have 300 empty parking spaces.
So wasn't there something about trying to, was it too expensive for EB to use those?
No, EB wants everything
deal.
for free.
Yeah.
And
they
were in the storm, I think.
We're gone.
17, oh, okay. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
See you.